Hello and welcome. We're here to celebrate the launch of Made in the West Film Festival's 10-year anniversary magazine. My name is Misty McPhail and I'm the manager of Made in the West, and I'm joined tonight by the editors of this wonderful magazine. You know them as the team that plans and produces Made in the West Film Festival each year. Founder and artistic director, Roscoe Pagey.
G'day.
Event coordinator, Jay Knapp.
Hi there, pleasure to be here.
And our new event assistant, Emily Mumford.
Hello.
We are so excited to be able to mark this major milestone in Made in the West history, a decade of film festival screenings dedicated to showcasing the work of filmmakers from the Western Sydney film scene, a scene that is bustling with creatives and emerging practitioners who are producing some of the best short form content in the country right now. Made in the West magazine looks back on our inspiring history, our rebellious roots, the red carpet moments, and all of the award-winning filmmakers who have been part of the Western Sydney film community along the way. But of course, we wouldn't even dream of being able to design such a glorious collector's edition by ourselves. To make it happen, we have been working with the team of 8 exceptionally talented students from Burrow Studtio, the award-winning design studio at Western Sydney University. They're here with us now to celebrate the launch, and I'm going to let Ross introduce the team because, of course, we want to talk to them about their work on the layouts, illustrations, animations, and the AR elements that are included in these 28 glossy printed magazine pages. Over to you, Ross.
G'day, everyone. I would say probably 2 years ago, maybe 18 months ago, we come up with a wacky idea to have a magazine. Why did we want a magazine? Because we wanted to celebrate Made in the West's 10th year of doing festivals. We've been across 3 venues across Sydney, and now we're back in Western Sydney. We've been back for our 4th year now. So yeah, we came up with a crazy idea to do a magazine. We didn't know really where to start. And then one day we did one design with this really cool team from Burrow, and then all of a sudden we realised, hey, that these guys may want to make a magazine, and we put it out there to the Burrow, and they just jumped at it. So we were very excited about that. Allow me to now introduce the magazine design team. First, I'd like to introduce Katrina Sandbach. The fearless leader, the convener of Burrow. Welcome, Katrina. Hi. And I'd like to welcome Brendan Schmitz, and I'd like to welcome Thomas Baldwin, Kay Huong, and Angela Tao, and Aaron Barnes, Alex Foy, and I believe that Ethan White and Annabelle Crawford can't be here today. So I'd like to give a nice big warm welcome and congratulations on a fine project to the design team. Yeah, I think we can just kick straight into an interview. What do you reckon? All right. Well, the first spotlight I'd like to go to is the convener, the fearless leader of Burrow. Katrina, welcome to the spotlight and the hot seat.
Well, it's very warm indeed.
Warm under the spotlight for sure. Well, now that I've been yabbering on about Burrow, what is Burrow all about? What does it do? Who is it?
Well, Burrow is a work integrated learning program in the School of Humanities and Communication Arts. And what we do is connect emerging designers with people and organisations that need creative insight. And that can take lots of different guises, projects like what we've been doing with Made in the West. So to support events and important initiatives. But essentially in teams, students work with real clients on actual projects that get implemented in the real world.
Well, looking at the Made in the West magazine as a real world project, with a crazy brief, because it was an insane brief. What is it about a brief like Made in the West magazine do you think is attractive to a design team?
Well, I guess first thing is that we love working with other creatives, and it's not as commonplace as I'd love it to be. But this is a project that really celebrates illustration, and that's a rarity in the kind of briefs we normally run in the studio. And having worked with Made in the West in 2020 on your event campaign, it was awesome to not have to wait a whole year to do it again. So when you guys came to the Burrow with this project, and knowing that you were really open and fearless about the process. I did, straight up say I had no idea about anything to do with AR, but you were kind of like cool with us just, seeing what we could do. And I think the team did a fantastic job considering that they self-taught every step of the way, pretty much. So yeah, it was a great project because it was just so, I guess, exciting and format bending, and gave 8 brilliant young illustrators a chance to flex their skills, not just as illustrators, but as animators and as layout designers as well.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that insight, Katrina. I'd like to move straight on to our next spotlight interview, and that is with Alex Foy.
How you going?
G'day, Alex.
How you going?
I hear that you're Mr. Layout.
Yeah.
Well, layouts, it sounds like it's self-explanatory, but what is a layout? What goes into a layout?
So basically the layout is how the magazine is presented and how the structure of the magazine flows for the reader. And so it was my job as a part of a team of, I think it was 4 people, I think, worked on the magazine and the layout aspect. And so we basically played around with the words, the images, the titles, all the sections, and fit them together like a puzzle piece, or like a Tetris essentially, and created this beautiful aesthetic that you see and get to experience now, which is the 10 Years magazine.
Well, I think we're in a world that is surrounded by images, and I think we take a lot of images for granted. So what draws someone's eye into the page? Is this just a random act of putting pieces together, or is there a bit of methodology to go with that?
No, there's a lot of thinking and problem solving involved in this, and to the naked eye, it looks very basic, like I've just basically slapped images on the page. But in reality, everything right down from the font, the color, the position, even the size, the spacing, all play crucial roles in how we perceive and acknowledge the material that's in front of us and how we can relate essentially.
Yeah, I think in many fields of editing, if you've been noticed as an editor, there's something wrong. If it's not noticed, it must be good. I think that's sometimes a disconnect of being surrounded by images all the time. So thanks for the insight. But just one more further though. What's your favorite layout and spread out of the magazine?
My favorite layout is actually the spin-offs one, which is on my back screen here. So I worked, I originally wasn't going to work on this one, and then it came together, and I had this strange idea of putting these 4 little images inside old retro TVs for whatever reason, relating it back to the whole film and stuff. And then I decided to create this old film camera and some like film canisters, and the film canisters actually have all the past original winners, the names on them, which is like a little Easter egg that you can check out. So.
All right, cool. Well, once again, man, thanks for the chat.
Thank you.
I'd like to move on to our next spotlight interview, which is Brendan Schmitz, the cover designer. Welcome, Brendan.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Well, how would you just we've given you an insane brief to do this cover. How would you describe the cover art? Do you think what kind of genre is it?
Oh, it's very hard to pin a single genre on it. I remember from your brief, you were like, have something explosive, and I very much tried to fit that brief. Definitely, I would make it most akin to something like a Where's Wally picture. You want to look into it, digging deeper for little Easter eggs, and so hopefully every time someone looks at it, they might see something they haven't seen before.
I've totally had that experience with the magazine. Every time I pick it up, even though I've been looking at this magazine for months now, I always find something new. So it's absolutely true. But let's talk about technique. There's a bit of an intersection of ideas that go into that. Like, I'm an old school sort of thinker. I think illustrator, and I think someone that draws on paper and then sort of scans it into a computer. Is that the sort of process that you went through, or was this totally done in a digital space?
early done digital space. Yeah, we start off with some rough thumbnails, trying to get layout for trying to fit everything in. With certainly a lot of elements. So yeah, once we were happy with layouts, move on to line work, and finally finishing with color and highlights. Yeah, so all digital process.
Yeah, but just one more question into that process. Do you use like a pen, or is it all just on mouse? Do you have like a work pad? How does that come together?
That'd be something else if I could do it by mouse. No, it's by a digital pen and a screen that I draw directly onto. So it certainly makes the transition from pen and paper to screen and paper very easy.
Okay, so kind of like a mouse and a pen that's met, and now it's a digital tool.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah, cool. Just one more final question. What was your experience like participating in the construction of this magazine?
Fantastic, actually. Like trying to build a magazine, something I've never done before. So working with a lot of people trying to produce illustrations, we all have different styles, and trying to get them all to blend together was incredibly interesting, but at the same time, very rewarding with what we produced in the end. Yeah, I've found a fantastic experience.
Yeah, I must say I've had a fantastic experience with it as well. Like I've always said about film that it's an intersection of art, and I think a magazine has a similar characteristic to it. There's a lot of things going on into it. It's journalism, it's illustration, it's photography. There's a lot of intersections going into there. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'd like to thank you very much, Brendan.
Welcome.
And I'd like to welcome our next spotlight, Aaron Barnes, who was given the task of AR. For people on the call, they may not have any idea what AR is. AR is sort of compartmentalized with VR. What is AR?
Yeah, when our design team started, that was something that we ourselves didn't really know. So it's something that we had to discover as well too. In the simplest terms, AR combines art, design, and technology, where we're able to build a new layer of reality onto real-time, real-world landscape that we see. So particularly for the magazine, we're using an app called Unite AR, where you bring up your phone, you scan it, you scan the spreads, and it starts bursting these beautiful extra animations and 3D content that we've created.
But you didn't do all of this on your own. You must have put a team together to make a product like this, because I've used a bit of the Unite AR app myself. You have to have an extreme amount of patience to navigate through such software. What was it like putting a team together to build the augmented reality?
Yeah, absolutely. It was so important to have a good team on this, especially with how many bugs and things that will come up with a new technology that's so complicated that everyone has to learn. We had animators like Brendan and Angela, who worked on all the little title animations. Also had teammate Kai, who was one of our 3D modelers, who helped on this beautiful spread that you're about to see on the history spread. We didn't really know what AR was in the beginning, but we all thought it sounded very exciting, and we're more than happy to give it a shot. So,
well, it was actually the idea that I saw about AR was actually at WSU 10 years ago. I think the technology was just emerging, and I saw people holding up phones towards a poster, and then the poster would come to life. And I thought these guys could do it. So I'm really glad that we stuck you in the deep end, and you guys have certainly learned how to swim. That's for sure. But speaking of it being a new technology, working with the new technology, what was the most challenging part developing the AR component?
Well, I think it's just with a new technology, with something that is so unknown to you, you're always going to come across these little bugs that you work out like every single day, but you just can't figure out what's going on. But that's why we had a team. So we used fresh sets of eyes along the way, and that really helped. But with all the troubles that it caused, it was definitely worth it, because it brought this real opportunity for new levels of interactivity with the audience, with presenting something as big and powerful as 10 years of Made in the West. So I think it really reflected that, which was fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting tribute, because film, it's been said before, when TV showed up, it killed the film industry, and then then it built up again, and then the videotape came out and killed the film industry again, and now we're up to streaming services and digital access, and it's created more access, so different films are being made. But I just find it really cool that we've got this analog tribute that has a digital aspect and again has these intersection of ideas. I feel like we've gone back and, you know, we've put Made in the West on vinyl in some way. So thank you very much, guys.
Absolutely.
I'd like to swing it over to Jay.
Yes, thank you, Ross. We've got a couple of questions coming through the chat. The first one, we're going to put the spotlight back on Katrina. We'd like to know, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Well, I've actually had lots of great advice at different times of my career, but when I was just starting out and absolutely petrified about jumping into the industry, the best advice I got then was just to fake it till I made it and not to wait until I was perfect, just to jump straight in and just to do my best. And that was the best way to learn and become more confident.
Yeah, nice. That's great. That's fantastic. Bina would like to know as well, I suppose this is a question for all of the students. I might throw it over to Brendan though. When it comes to teamwork, I suppose, how did the group brainstorm ideas? How did you assign roles? Did you all get a chance to flex your skills in a particular area?
Good question. Yeah, initially when we started the project, we naturally asked what we would prefer to work on. A few of us produced some early drafts of the cover, and before we did a collective vote of what we'd like to produce, others had better strengths in layouts and were able to do that far better. I personally can't touch layouts to save my life. So yeah, it was all a very democratic process, to put it simply. Yeah, great. That's nice. Rachel would like to know about the vision for the magazine. So maybe Ross, it's best if I ask you this question. When it comes to the magazine, what brief did we give the students? What was the vision? Can you tell us a little bit about that? You know, it's such an important milestone.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this short as I can because it's a really long answer. Look, we were inspired to do it for a few comical reasons, a few movie references about magazines in movie world, and people sitting around a boardroom table and someone forgetting a magazine, and we wanted to add to that list. So we wanted a magazine on our list, but then we started looking at it seriously and we go, this is actually an opportunity. It's actually a really good idea. It's a good opportunity to document our history. So that we can give it to the filmmakers and the film viewers. But it's sort of on the back end of a Patreon idea as well. Organizations like ours are looking for support anywhere we can get it. But we didn't want to do a Patreon. We wanted to do something, well, if we build something and give it to somebody and then, collect a profit on that, that's supporting the festival. But we didn't want to go down a full merch sort of direction. We wanted to do something more customized, something that's more targeted towards our community and targeted towards filmmakers. And then we saw a massive opportunity to, again, look at these intersections of artists and try to bring more people into our artistic bar fight, if you like. We just wanted to get more people involved in it. So it was definitely about having a piece of memorabilia and an opportunity for people to show their support, because we get a lot of support out there. So we wanted to, at the same time, throw something back, but at the same time, allow people to support us as well. So that was the real motivation behind the magazine.
Yeah, fantastic. We've got another question from Asha. Misty, I might ask you this. Asha would like to know a little bit more about the content and the process of putting that together, and also to Rachel's question, more of the experience of working with the students from Burrow.
Yeah, right. Well, we had a lot that we wanted to have go into this magazine. We knew that we wanted to have a gallery of all of the past red carpet photos. We knew that we wanted to have a poster archive of all of our past posters. We love our posters. We have such great posters every year, and we put so much thought into how we want them to look and how they represent us from year to year. And so we knew we wanted to have a poster archive. We definitely spent a lot of time putting together our history. It was so difficult to be able to compress 10 years worth of stories, from the beginnings at the Roxy to our middle years, our wonder years at the Paddo RSL, and then moving into event cinemas for the last few years, encapsulating that and sort of telling our story in terms of how we've come about and where we've got to now. We wanted to do spotlight interviews with filmmakers filmmakers from our local community. We've highlighted something like 12 or 14 filmmakers who are award winners in our community and who are going on to do amazing things in their own professional careers. And so we really wanted to spotlight them as well. We've got a lot of spin-offs we wanted to mention. So, you know, Roscoe has a podcast, the Pagey Train podcast. We've been making Made in the West TV for a couple of years for WSU. You know, we do online networking events with Western Sydney filmmakers hangout. So there's so much stuff that we've got going on. So we really wanted to just talk to get that in writing. There was so much that went in there. And of course, I know, Jay, this is one of your favorite parts of the magazine. We wrote a manifesto. We are so pleased with our manifesto, and it has really helped us sort of think about where we came from, what we stand for, what we're here for, and where we're going, you know, and it's been a really fantastic process. Certainly working with Burrow is always a pleasure. We tell Katrina all of our thoughts in terms of what we want to get from a project. You know, this particular design, we wanted a mash of 10 years worth of poster content. You know, all of the characters from our 10 years of posters are featured all the way through the magazine. And so the team certainly took to that. I loved the collaborative process. I loved seeing everybody working together and thinking about how their creative elements could riff off each other in the same way that we love to do in our creative spaces. And so, yeah, you know, the whole process working with Burrow is always a pleasure, and we're super excited about the outcome.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, Ross, can you tell us, thinking back to the start of the festival, can you shed a little light for us? Why was the festival created, and how does it feel? How does it feel to reach this milestone, this incredible feat?
It's amazing. I never thought that we would ever get this far. I remember we put the first you know, Made in the West together with all of our final films from WSU, and you know, we had a $200 projector on 2 milk crates plugged into a dodgy VGA cable that had to be held together at certain points of the show because it was flickering. While hitting a space bar on a you know, a first generation Mac laptop. But now, you know, moving forward 10 years, we're not in a you know, a fire hazard cinema. We're now in a proper cinema with leather seats, with a full DCP, 4 stories, you know, a $1 million projector, and you know, software that runs it and does it properly. So between those 2 points, it's been an amazing journey. But it sort of started out of rebellion to do with a bit of postcode stigmatism in Western Sydney. I'm sure everyone on this call would have felt that pinch at some point in their careers and at some point in their lives. That you know, you kind of looked at sideways if you've got a certain certain postcodes around Sydney. But one thing I have seen change in the last 10 years, you know, more films are getting accepted, not just nationally, but internationally from Western Sydney. The content in Western Sydney has gone from being a backyard tinkerer to a international standard of content. And watching people grow is probably the most amazing thing. That is the biggest side effect that I never, ever would have predicted. I just wanted to allow people to show their films in front of people that they love while sipping a beer and having a laugh. That's essentially, it came from a very humble place, a little bit of rebellion, but then it sort of merged into a gala event. We started rolling out the red carpet. People started wearing tuxedos. Unless you're some people show up on a skateboard. We do tell people, show up any way you like, as long as you show up ready to be photographed. And so, you know, people dressed to the nines walking down a red carpet. We build the festival that we want to go to. You walk down the red carpet, you get a photograph taken, maybe another photograph taken, you get a TV interview, and then, you know, you get to wine and dine with your fellow artists and local celebrities to see your work on the big screen. And that's what that's where we're up to. And now we're just looking at, you know, expanding that platform to get more eyes on the screen, to get more content on the screen. So that's what we're looking at next. And this magazine is not just looking back; it's also a way to look forward. It's a vibrant magazine that shows our vibrance and it shows our community's vibrance. And that is certainly a you know, what things that happened before will happen again. So I really see a really massive growth for Made in the West. I'm just really proud of our community and where we're up to.
So true.
Yeah.
But let me take a question. Can I offer a question to Misty? Your success has been running like a wild freight train. How are you so popular? No, my real question is, what is it like to compress 10 years of history via photographs and articles into a 28-page magazine?
Oh, it was huge. It was a much bigger task than I think any of us really expected when we took on the project, when we thought, okay, let's put all this together. Actually, the process of gathering all of that content from 10 years was a huge process. All of the red carpet photographs that we've taken, all of the video content, all the highlights reels, all the spin-off content, but as well, as I said before, just being able to encapsulate all of those stories. There's so much that's happened in the last 10 years. And to be able to encapsulate that into, well, what was originally maybe a 2,500 word article, but Katrina cut me down to 1,500 words. And so it was even harder to compress it in the tail end of editing, and it looks amazing to be able to see it all come together. And actually one of my favorite pages is the contributors page on the back. That was actually something that was really challenging too, to cast our minds back to every single person who has had something to do with Made in the West over the years. I mean, we're a volunteer-run organisation, where we run Made in the West because we love our community and we want to support our community and see everybody prosper. And there's so many people who've contributed to what we do over the years, from volunteers to judges to film crew, the TV crew, the theme song. We've got a theme song. There's so much that's gone into it, and every single person who has contributed to the festival over the years gets a mention on the back page, and that there's hundreds of people, which is fantastic. It makes me so happy. Certainly, I'm going to spin these questions around to Jay and Emily, our other two team members, because I have to thank them for the huge amount of work that went into collating and drafting all of that content with me. It really was a team effort, and I know Jay and Ross, we work closely all the time on writing and editing content, and of course we've worked with Burrow before, but I want to ask Emily, it was your first time working with us on a design project like this, and with Burrow. How was the experience for you? And do you have a favourite layout?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say big congratulations to the design team. The magazine is amazing. And I remember when we first went in for the brief, and I wasn't really sure what to expect, but when I walked out of there, my mouth was to the floor. Like, you guys did such an incredible job. I can't even pinpoint a layout that is amazing. Each page has so much life and character to it, and you'll be always looking back to front, and you'll discover something new each time you look at the magazine. The attention to detail is absolutely insane. I'm just still so blown away at the work that you guys done. Big pat on the back. Amazing job.
Yeah, it is. And I remember that first briefing too, when we all came in and there were all the different design options for us, and we were all like, how do we even choose between these things? It was fantastic. The process was really fun to go through. And Jay, I know we've been working together for a long time. We have seen Made in the West grow year upon year. What does this magazine mean to you?
I don't even know where to start with that question. Made in the West is a community, and I always have a moment at the festival every year. It's always after the last film plays, before the awards ceremony, where I take a step back and I take a breath and I sort of take it all in. It's such a wonderful feeling to be a part of something that is so supportive and brings out the best in people, that encourages collaboration and creativity, and to put all of that and distill it down into a magazine that is so good and proudly and unabashedly just says, this is who we are, this is what we're about. It is incredible. The design team have done an amazing job. I love the manifesto, I must say.
I love that layout. That's a great page. Yeah.
It's fantastic. That just says, this is what we're about, you know? It's incredible. It is really, really hard to pick a favorite spread, but I thought about it last night, and I reckon my favorite spread has got to be the future focus, because as Ross says, as much as it is about our past, it's about our future as well. And I'm so excited by what we have planned for the coming years. I am so inspired by not only our potential, but the potential of the community. And so that's going to be my favorite spread.
Fantastic. And Ross, I know you love the manifesto.
I do. Well, most organisations have a mission statement. We've gone beyond that. We've gone, no, mission statement's not going to cut it. We need a manifesto. We need an emotionally charged description of why we're here and what we're about. I love the manifesto. I think it really talks to the rebellious nature of people from Western Sydney. It talks to the you don't have to throw a stone far to find diversity in Western Sydney. You don't have to try to be inclusive in Western Sydney. It's an inclusive place. And I love the manifesto. I love that it's beyond a mission statement. It really goes into detail about why we are doing what we are doing. And it nails it on the head. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, look, Ross, I'll hand over to you to wrap up and thank everybody.
Yeah, well, obviously, I'd like to thank our sponsors, our Gold Plus sponsor, WSU, of course, everyone that's a part of the team at WSU, from Rachel Morley through to obviously the dean, and we've even got Jenny Purcell, who is on the call. There are people out there that are just hard, diligent workers. That know how to cross their T's and dot their I's, and they have the right motivation. And I think, I just really like to thank the team at WSU, not just the WSU organisation as an emblem, but the people in WSU. I'd like to thank them. I'd also like to thank some of our other major sponsors. I'd like to thank Media Hub. They've been a long-time sponsor of ours and a supporter and a local employer for creatives. Getting into the industry. But I'd like to thank the SSP team. I'd like to thank Jay for putting up with all of my crap all the time. I'd like to thank Emily for having a can-do attitude. You may be at a junior level, but you are leadership material. You really are. And of course, for our magazine, our fearless leader and chief editor, Misty McPhail. I'd like to thank you personally and directly. I think you've done an absolute fantastic job at putting this together, arranging the team, and essentially getting the best out of everyone. And speaking about getting the best out of everyone, I'd like to thank the design team and their leader, Katrina. You guys are amazing. If this is how you've started into the world at the at the end of your education and the beginning of your careers, you guys are going to go far. You really are. If the eye for detail that you have, the hunger to work, and if I'm to give you any advice out there in the workforce in the creative field, hunger is everything. Passion is everything. Money will come and go, jobs will come and go, but the passion, if that remains, you will always be driven. And I'd like to thank everyone that supported Made in the West. I'd like to thank the filmmakers. Without the filmmakers, there's no content. You guys are the engine room of what we do. And of course, Made in the West supporters, everyone that comes along to Made in the West to watch this content, because the more eyes we have on the screen, the more popularity we can get for our filmmakers, and the more popularity they have, the more water they can draw on, the more content that they can make. And essentially, when it comes down to it, that creates, creative job opportunities for us all in Western Sydney. And this place is going through our region is going to go through a massive change in the next 10 years. I really believe that we're at the cusp of a renaissance coming out of COVID. We all know the bad side of it, but the positive side of it is, that we've learned how to communicate in these kind of forums. We have expanded our ability to communicate, and that's the key, is communication. So yeah, thank you for everyone involved, and I think we're at the end, Misty. Let's wrap it up.
Jenny's got a question.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry, more questions.
Jenny had a question. Yes, I'll let you compare.
As we've got one more question, I was just going to wrap up the show. Jay, do you want to? We've got one more question.
Certainly,
here.
we'll sneak it in, no worries. So Jenny just wants to know what the biggest challenge has been pulling together everything and putting the 10-year magazine together. Is that a good question for one of us, I think? Misty?
I would say so. The biggest challenge is definitely, wrangling a large team, two teams of contributors, plus, a cohort of filmmakers, plus all of that content, bringing it all together. It certainly was a really large project, and coordinating the timelines and coordinating the capture of all that content and bringing it all together. Certainly was the biggest challenge, but it was all worth it in the end. We're really, really pleased with how it's all come together. And Ross, I echo all of your sentiments for our sponsors, our supporters, the filmmakers in our community, the students on the call, all of the students from WSU who support what we do, and of course our Still Searchin Production team. We are rocking it. And we love this magazine as a representation of the work that we do and the impact that we make. So I'm really pleased.
Yeah, if you want to be great, surround yourself with great people. And I'm honoured to say that I'm amongst greatness. So thank you.
Yeah. So let me wrap up the show. So thank you all very much for joining us as we have celebrated the launch of Made in the West magazine. You can show your support for the festival and buy one of these limited edition magazines at our website, madeinthewest.com.au. Look for the shop in our menu and fill out your details for postage. Or you can collect your copy at Made in the West Film Festival on Saturday, the 4th of December. We'll be rolling out the red carpet once again at Event Cinemas in Liverpool, celebrating Western Sydney filmmakers on the big screen at our 10th anniversary festival. Find the golden ticket inside your magazine and you could win a huge prize pack, including a stack of awesome new festival merch. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you at Made in the West.